the Monday, 2020, 11 a.m. special meeting of the Bell Garden City Council. The meeting will now come to order. Pursuant to Executive Order N-2920, please be advised that the members of the Bell Garden City Council would participate in today's meeting telephonically. Council members and staffs are participating from remote locations. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting live online through the city's website as noted on the agenda. Do we need to give an invocation? No, right? So for the Pledge of Allegiance, who's there? Mike, could you lead us on the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mike. City Clerk, will you please call roll of the City Council?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem. Council members Aceituno,
Present.
Barcena,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Flores,
Present.
and Mayor Cortez.
Present.
Okay, all present.
Alejandro, you want to take over?
Yes, I'll go ahead and take over. So City Clerk, at this point, we're going into public comment, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, how many speakers do we have and how many emails do we have?
Okay, we have 16 members of the public that requested to speak, and then we have 19 emails.
I'm sorry, the audio was very distorted. Can someone turn off their mic so that we're not getting the feedback? How many emails did you say?
And 19 emails.
19 emails and 16 speakers?
That is correct.
Okay, can we go ahead and allot 2 minutes per speaker and 2 minutes per email?
2 minutes for each, okay.
Madam Mayor, this is Rick.
Yes, City Attorney?
Yeah, just before, Mayor, members of the council, before we get to the public comment portion of the meeting, I just want to make sure that members of the public understand that this is a special meeting and therefore the comments must be limited to the item before us, which is to consider the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, City Attorney. City Clerk, can we please proceed to call? We're not leaving voicemails this time.
Okay, I'll proceed with the first one. The first one is Senora Carrasco.
¿Aló?
Hello, ¿esta es señora Carrasco?
Sí, soy yo. Ajá.
Okay. Buenos días.
Buenos días.
Esta es una junta especial y vamos a hablar del budget. Mi nombre es Jane Halstead, secretaria de la
¿Me
ciudad.
puede hablar más recio, más altito, por favor?
Sí. Mi nombre es Jane Halstead, secretaria de la ciudad de Bell Gardens.
Ajá,
Le llamo para que pueda ver sus comentarios ante el Consejo Municipal por teléfono.
Okay.
Por favor, anuncie su nombre y diga sus comentarios. Tienes 2 minutos para hablar.
Ok, gracias.
Comienza.
Buenos días. Buenos días, señorita Alejandra y señora Cortés y los señor Aceituno y señor Bárcena. Mi nombre es Marta Carrasco, soy residente de aquí, de esta comunidad, por 50 años, y las últimas 2 semanas que yo he caminado las calles, la gente con la que he platicado no están de acuerdo en que se les rebajen en el presupuesto a nuestro departamento de policía. A todas sabemos que el crimen está muy bajo y lo queremos mantener así. Muchísimas gracias. Espero una muy buena respuesta de parte de ustedes. Gracias.
Gracias, señora.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Our next speaker is Martha Beltran.
¿Aló?
Hello, es Martha Beltran.
Ajá.
Ah,
¿Ella habla?
sí, buenos días, señora.
Buenos días.
Mi nombre es Jane Halstead, secretaria de Ciudad de Bell Gardens.
Ajá.
Le llamo para que pueda dar sus comentarios ante el Consejo Municipal por teléfono.
Gracias.
Por favor, anuncia su nombre, diga sus comentarios y tienes 2
Gracias.
minutos para hablar. Esta es una especial junta del budget.
Gracias.
Comienza cuando quieres.
Póngase, por favor, hijo. Buenos días, mi nombre es Marta Beltrán. Mi comentario solamente es respecto al tema que creo que se va a tomar en cuenta el día de hoy, sobre el presupuesto para el Departamento de Policía. Creo que es algo muy importante que la ciudad debemos de considerar. Pienso que en vez de, no sé si es disminuir, no sé la palabra correcta, o cortar el presupuesto, mejor se debería de cortar otros gastos, no sé, ¿verdad? Por decir, quitar algún otro gasto y dejar al departamento como están hasta ahorita, porque creo que es algo muy importante. Les agradezco su atención y su llamada y tomar en cuenta de que actualmente ahorita que estamos en la pandemia, estamos en casa ya casi el 100% y los niños, y es cuando más necesitamos de la policía. Espero que sirva de algo mi opinión y les agradezco su atención. Dios me los bendiga y gracias por llamarme y escucharme.
Gracias, señora.
A usted.
Bye bye. Our next speaker is Lara Serrano.
Bueno,
Bueno, buenos días. ¿Se encuentra Lara Serrano?
sí soy yo, señorita.
Bueno, mi nombre es Jane Halstead, secretaria del Ciudad de Bell Gardens. Le llamo para que pueda dar sus comentarios ante el Consejo Municipal por teléfono. Por favor, anuncia su nombre y diga sus comentarios. Tienes 2 minutos para hablar. Esta es una especial junta del budget. So, comienza.
Sí, sí. Muy buenos días. Mi nombre es Laura y no estoy de acuerdo que les quiten el presupuesto a los policías. He hablado con mi familia y vecinos y tampoco están de acuerdo. Nosotros queremos que nuestros hijos, que ahora varios de ellos ya son papás, sigan caminando tranquilamente por la calle de las manos de sus hijos en nuestra hermosa ciudad que es Verdades. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, señora.
Gracias.
The next speaker is Jose Castellanos. I'm thinking this is an incorrect number. I'll check back on that one. Hello?
Yes,
Is this Juan Munoz?
yes, this is fine, please.
Good morning. This is Jane Halstead, City Clerk for the City of Bell Gardens. I'm calling you so you can state your comments before the City Council by phone. Please announce your name and state your comments. You have 2 minutes to speak regarding the special meeting regarding the budget, the city budget, okay?
Can I do in Spanish?
Pardon?
Can I do it in Spanish?
Yes, you can do it in Spanish. Go ahead and
Okay.
get started, okay?
Ok, buenos días. Mi nombre es Juan Muñoz. Vivo en 7001 Grange Avenue. Soy miembro del grupo de Watch de Bell Garden y estoy en contra de la iniciativa que están dando para recortar el budget para los policías, porque pienso que la ciudad está bien así como está, no se mira mucha criminalidad, yo camino tranquilo en la noche, ¿no? Y pienso que si pasa esa iniciativa, entonces van a haber menos policías en la calle y nuestra seguridad se va a ver afectada, ¿no? Y por eso que yo pienso que estoy a favor contra, perdón, de la iniciativa de tener que cortar el valle para los policías. Eso es todo lo que quería decir. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, señor. Bye bye.
Okay. Okay, bye.
Bye. Our next speaker is Rosario Luna.
Hello.
Hello. Is this Rosario Luna?
Yes.
Okay.
En español, por favor.
Okay. Voy a hablar en español.
Claro.
Mi nombre es Jane Halstead, secretaria del Ciudad de Bell Gardens. Le llamo para que pueda dar sus comentarios ante el Consejo Municipal por teléfono. Por favor,
Gracias.
anuncia su nombre y diga sus comentarios. Tienes 2 minutos para hablar. Esta es una especial junta del budget. Bueno,
Gracias.
comienza.
Mi nombre es Rosario Luna. Vivo hace 34 años en Belgares, en la ciudad. Nosotros hemos ido estudiando y hemos ido viendo cómo ha mejorado y cómo ha crecido el mejoramiento de nuestra ciudad de Belgares concerniente a la policía. Yo no estoy de acuerdo con los recortes. Yo me opongo. Yo quiero que se ayude más, que haya mejoras. He caminado por muchas calles. Hay mucha gente que está ignorando, que no están enterados de lo que está pasando. Y tampoco no están de acuerdo muchos en que se recorten a los oficiales de la policía. Queremos mejoras, queremos que se mejore y también tengo entendido que los negocios y juntaron firmas, más de 50 firmas saben de ellos, nos queremos saber si las tomarán en cuenta. También queremos la policía en las escuelas por la razón de que nuestros hijos están creciendo y necesitan mucha seguridad porque los delincuentes en el momento también, ahorita pues, estamos mejor en nuestra ciudad de Vergara, estamos limpios, no hay incidentes. Entonces no queremos que lo que hemos luchado por muchos años vaya a empeorar por los recortes. Me opongo completamente a los recortes, a la policía. Gracias.
Gracias, señora. Bye bye. Our next speaker is Maria Leiva.
Bueno,
Buenos días. ¿Se encuentra,
buenos días.
¿se encuentra Maria Leiva?
Sí, a sus órdenes.
Ok. Mi nombre es Jane Halstead, secretaria del Ciudad de Bell Gardens. Le llamo por que pueda dar sus comentarios ante el Consejo Municipal por teléfono. Por favor, anuncia su nombre y diga sus comentarios. Tienes 2 minutos para hablar. Esta es una especial junta del budget. So,
Claro
comienza.
que sí.
Ujú.
Ok.
Comienza, señora.
Muy bien. Mi nombre es María Guadalupe Leiva y yo deseo que no le quiten el presupuesto a la policía de aquí de Belgarde. Nosotros tenemos muy buena respuesta al servicio de la policía. Entonces yo no me gustaría que le quitaran el presupuesto.
¿Y acabó, señora?
Sí,
Ok. Muchas gracias.
para servirle. Buen día.
Bye bye. Usted también. Bye.
Bye.
Our next speaker is Christopher Leon.
Hello?
Good morning. Is this Christopher Leon?
Yes, this is him.
Okay, my name is Jane Halstead, City Clerk for the City of Bell Gardens. I'm calling you so you can state your comments before the City Council by telephone.
Okay.
Please announce
Thank you.
your name and state your comments. You have 2 minutes to speak. This is a special City Council meeting regarding the budget.
Okay, thank you. So like I was off to say, my name is Christopher Leon. I actually came here to the council and I was not allowed into the council chambers. I would like to say off that this is a form of suppression of information. How are we supposed to participate? How are we members of the community supposed to engage if we're not being allowed to? City Hall should have been open 3-4 weeks ago. I would like to also address that some of my information that I submitted for public comment has not been shown by Jane, the city clerk. The graphic shows that 50% of the city budget is going to allocate it to the police department. And in our surrounding cities, none of them make that amount Okay, thank you. None of them make that amount. And the average of percentage of city budgets for police allocations is 32%. And I would also like to call out our mayor for saying that she could not basically wants to withdraw and sit down for a position and is scared to run for re-election. How can that happen? How are you supposed to advocate for our people? I want to thank Barcena for informing the public. Lizette Flores, I don't know what you're doing. Acetuno, you haven't said a word on our city budget and allocation in the police department, and I feel that safe cities don't have the most funded police. They have the most community resources. And I feel that that's something that should be strongly emphasized in our city. And our council does not have the guts to do it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Bye-bye. Our next speaker is Reina Rivera.
¿Aló?
Hello?
¿Aló?
Hello.
Sí, buenas tardes.
Buenos días.
Buenos días.
Esta es Reina Rivera.
Sí, soy Reina Rivera.
Ok. Mi nombre es Jane Halstead, secretaria del Ciudad de Bell Gardens. Le llamo para que
Sí.
pueda dar sus comentarios ante el Consejo Municipal por teléfono.
Ok.
Por,
Gracias.
por favor, anuncia su nombre y diga sus comentarios. Tienes 2 minutos para hablar. Esta es una especial junta del budget. Bueno,
Ok, muchas gracias.
de nada, señora. Comience.
Sí, buenos días. Mi nombre es Reina Rivera. Vivo en la calle Queen. Vivo ahí por 25 años y no estoy de acuerdo con los recortes de fondos. Hemos trabajado Neighborhood Watch por más de 15 años para mantener nuestra ciudad libre de crimen. Y necesitamos a la policía. Le doy muchas gracias a la policía por apoyarnos y trabajar juntos para que nuestros hijos estén seguros en nuestra ciudad. Y esos recortes lo que van a hacer es quitar programas muy importantes que tiene la policía para nuestros jóvenes. Y les doy muchas gracias por tantos años trabajando juntos a la ciudad libre de crimen, la calle Queen y la Muller y la East y la Cecilia y todos. Era una sola balacera antes, que teníamos que tirarlos al suelo para que no nos caigan unos balazos a nuestros hijos. Y yo no quiero volver a vivir ese miedo que teníamos antes. Es injusto que le quiten los fondos. Por favor, les doy muchas gracias por haberme escuchado. Muchísimas gracias. Necesitamos esos recursos para la policía y mantenerlos a nuestros jóvenes libres de droga y de pandillas. Solamente.
Gracias, señora.
Muchas gracias.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Our next speaker is Giselle Hernandez.
Bueno,
Buenos días. ¿Es Giselle Hernández?
sí.
Mi nombre es Jane Halstead, secretaria del Ciudad de Bell Gardens. Le llamo para que pueda dar sus comentarios ante el Consejo Municipal por teléfono. Por favor, anuncia su nombre y diga sus comentarios. Tienes 2 minutos para hablar. Esta es una especial junta del budget. Comienza.
Soy Isela Hernández, 30 años de residente de la ciudad de Bell Gardens y 13 años en el programa de Neighborhood Watch. Estoy llamando para decirles que no estoy de acuerdo con retirar presupuesto del Departamento de Policía porque es un dinero que les va a hacer mucha falta al jefe. El jefe, el Departamento de Policía ha abierto las líneas de comunicación con la comunidad de Bell Gardens. Hemos trabajado muy bien. hemos bajado el número de delincuencia en la ciudad y queremos que todo eso siga pasando. Tenemos un departamento de policía que está muy bien equipado. El jefe necesita ese dinero para continuarlo haciendo. Y no quiero que vuelva a pasar lo mismo que pasamos en los años 90, donde se brincaban por mi yarda y los pandilleros y asustaban a los niños. Entonces eso es lo que necesitamos, que tenga suficientes fondos. Y también fui asaltada 2 veces aquí en la ciudad. El departamento de policía me ayudó y hasta ahorita hemos estado ya bien. Quiero que tomen en cuenta, por favor, todo eso y que no vayan a retirar el presupuesto. Gracias.
Gracias, señora. Our next speaker is Leticia Lozano.
¿Hola?
Hello, buenos días. ¿Es Leticia Lozano?
Sí, soy yo.
Mi nombre es Jane Halstead, secretaria del Ciudad del Bell Gardens.
Ajá.
Le llamo para que pueda dar sus comentarios ante el Consejo Municipal por teléfono. Por favor, anuncia su nombre y diga sus comentarios. Tienes 2 minutos para hablar. Esta es un especial junta del budget.
Ok, muchas gracias.
De nada. Comienza.
Ok. Soy Leticia Lozano, vivo aquí en Vergazes, tengo 20 años viviendo y yo nomás hablo para decirles que no quiero que le quiten el dinero a los policías. Es muy necesario para nosotros aquí porque hasta ahorita estamos bien con ellos y yo no quisiera que se los quitaran. Y gracias por escucharnos y ojalá y si nos hagan caso los que estamos hablando. Gracias.
Gracias, señora.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Our next speaker is Edith Reyes.
Bueno,
Sí, buenos días.
buenos días.
¿Estás Edith Reyes?
Sí,
Mi nombre es Jane Halstead, secretaria de la ciudad de Bell Gardens.
sí.
Le llamo para que pueda dar sus comentarios ante el Consejo Municipal por teléfono. Por favor, anuncia su nombre y diga sus comentarios. Tienes 2 minutos para hablar. Esta es un especial junta del budget.
Ok, ¿lo tengo que hacer ahorita entonces?
Sí, ahorita, right now.
Está bien.
Comienza.
Mi nombre es Edith Reyes, soy residente de la ciudad de Bell Gardens. Mi preocupación es porque le quieren quitar fondos a los policías y la ciudad se me hace insegura. Entonces yo quiero pensar en ellos y que por favor nos ayuden a no quitarles fondos, porque tengo hijos y temo por la seguridad de mis hijos y por la seguridad de todos los vecindarios de la ciudad de Bell Gardens.
¿Es todo, señora?
Y pues necesitamos, ¿puedo seguir? Necesitamos a los policías, los necesitamos en nuestra ciudad. Ellos están trabajando bien, el crimen ha bajado y queremos continuar con ellos. En las escuelas los necesitamos. Cuando ha estado tiempo de escuela, se les pide que nos ayuden a cuidar las partes de los niños, el parque, y ellos están ahí. Si les quitan fondos, temo que no van a poder estar ayudándonos a cuidar el parque y a nuestros hijos.
Sí, es todo. Muchas gracias.
De nada. Bye bye.
Adiós.
Our next speaker is Lillian Perez.
Hello?
Hello, is this Lillian Perez?
Yes, this is she.
My name is Jane Halstead, City Clerk for the City of Bell Gardens. I'm calling you so you can state your comments before the City Council by telephone. Please announce your name and state your comments. You have 2 minutes to speak. This is a special meeting of the City Council regarding the budget. So go ahead and get started.
Hello, my name is Lilian Perez. I live in Bell Gardens. Hola, mi nombre es Lilian Perez. Yo vivo aquí en Bell Gardens. Y lo que quería decir es que yo quiero que le bajen más el presupuesto a los policías, porque ¿cómo es posible que le estén bajando el presupuesto a las escuelas y no a los policías? Lo que nosotros necesitamos en verdad es la educación, no los policías. No necesitamos para que los policías estén acá rondando cuando los cohetes cada rato están explotando y les llamamos y no están. ¿Cómo es posible que no puedan hacer un simple trabajo como eso y le estén quitando dinero a las escuelas? Eso no está bien. Y la última cosa que quería decir es, listen, if you're listening, we want those $4,100 back. That is for the city, not for you. And I wish and I hope you resign, because we don't want you back. We really don't want you in the city. And I would like to say, thank you, have a nice day, que tengan un buen día.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Maria Rosa Reese.
¿Aló?
Buenos días, esta es María Rosa Reese. Señora. Señora.
¿Aló?
Hello, esta es María Rosa Reese.
Esta es la policía, Araceli, ¿por qué?
Señora.
¿No?
Sí, mi nombre es Jane Halstead, secretaria del Ciudad de Bell Gardens. Le llamo para que pueda dar sus comentarios ante el Consejo Municipal por teléfono. Por favor, anuncia su nombre y diga sus comentarios. Tienes 2 minutos para hablar. Esta es un especial junta del budget. Comienza con sus comentarios, por favor.
Sí. Mi nombre es Araceli Mejía Ponce. Con mi comentario es que no queremos que nosotros despidan a los policías, pues porque si despidan a los policías, pues vamos a quedar sin policía en la ciudad. estamos contentos con los policías que tenemos y pues no queremos pues quitar a los policías, ¿ok? Eso es todo. Gracias. Quiero pasar otra vez porque voy a traer el carro. ¿Quieren comentar que? ¿Aló?
Hello?
Sí, buenas tardes.
¿Ya estás
Sí, buenas
completo?
tardes. Mi nombre es María Rosa Ruiz.
I can't. Hold on. She needs to what?
Mi nombre es María Rosa Ruiz.
Okay. ¿Ya te puedo oír?
Sí, estoy hablando también para que por favor, ¿verdad? No nos quiten a la policía porque sabemos que quieren traer al sheriff y nosotros, yo de mi parte no quiero que traigan el sheriff aquí a la ciudad de Belgarden. Vivo por 30 años aquí en la ciudad de Belgarden, tengo casa acá y pues y en realidad, ¿verdad? Llamamos a la policía y la policía pues pronto llega. Yo vivo en la Sicilia, en la 56-463, y he necesitado mucho de la policía y por favor yo quisiera, ¿verdad?, que tomaran en cuenta que no quisiera que le quitaran los fondos ni nada a la policía.
Bueno, gracias por los comentarios.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Our next speaker is Araceli Reese.
You have reached the voicemail box of 56.
Our next speaker is Maria Lorenzo. Bueno, esta es María Lorenzo.
Sí, yo soy.
Buenos días. Mi nombre es Jane Halstead, secretaria de la ciudad de Bell Gardens. Le llamo para que pueda dar sus comentarios ante el Consejo Municipal por teléfono. Por favor, anuncia su nombre y diga sus comentarios. Tienes 2 minutos para hablar. Esta es una especial junta del budget. So, comienza con tus comentarios.
Buenos días, mi nombre es María Lorenzo. Soy residente de la ciudad de Bell Gardens por 35 años. Los últimos 17 años yo soy voluntaria del Departamento de Policía. También soy miembro del programa de Neighborhood Watch y soy miembro de la mesa directiva de Neighborhood Watch. Yo les estoy llamando para decirles que no estoy de acuerdo que nos quiten los fondos de la policía, porque en los últimos años enseña que no tenemos el crimen alto. También en los últimos, desde que yo soy de voluntaria, nunca he escuchado que tenemos abuso policíaco. Nuestros policías trabajan bien, nuestras calles están seguras, nuestros hijos pueden estar allá afuera y no corren ningún peligro. Por favor, quiero que tomen a consideración que necesitamos mucho nuestro departamento de policía Ahorita con la pandemia que tenemos, nos sentimos muy seguros que estamos en nuestras casas y nuestras calles están libres de crimen porque nuestros policías están trabajando muy duro para tener nuestra ciudad libre de crimen. Y quitarle los fondos sería un gran error para nosotros, los miembros de la comunidad de aquí de la ciudad de Bell Gardens. Por favor, tomen en cuenta que los que vamos a pagar las consecuencias somos los miembros de la comunidad y nuestros hijos que vivimos aquí en la ciudad. Por favor, gracias.
Gracias, señora. Bye-bye. That concludes the public comment portion. I will have to come back with one number we're going to be checking on. The rest are emails.
Do you want to check the number now?
She's gone to lunch. Yeah.
Email?
Yeah, emails probably. I'll have to check and see if I got any.
Okay, we're going to proceed with the email comments. And again, 2 minutes on the clock for email, please. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, my name is Laura Cortez and I live in Bell Gardens. Last week's meeting on the city budget had the most participants the city has had in a long time. People are interested. This is what this council said they wanted to create, civic engagement. Community voice and overwhelming support for defunding BGPD. The city council's response, continue with the same budget, just leave 3 BGPD vacant positions. City council's second response, have this meeting as a quote, special meeting without any notice the night before. City council's third response, have said meeting at 11 a.m. when the community is working and has less availability to engage. I have never felt so betrayed by my city. This is so shady and completely against meaningful community engagement. I'm disappointed. Nonetheless, I demand 3 things. Before approval, this budget includes an overtime limit for BGPD. City council directs staff to present a detailed report of police funding sources, allocated time, and staff used to apply these funding streams and expenditures by line item at the next council meeting. City council directs staff to come back in 2 months with a BGPD divestment plan and proposal for needs assessment for the city. My name is Lilith, and I have been a resident of the city of Bell Gardens my whole life. I'm reaching out because I would like to show my support in defunding the Bell Gardens Police Department. I, like many other residents, believe that funds could be allocated towards different parts of our community to directly benefit our residents. The city council meeting on 6/22 had an extremely high viewership and large number of public comments in support of this action. I urge you to listen to your community and make your wishes to defund the police a reality. Your current updated proposed budget for the fiscal year 2021 does not satisfy what we want. There is not enough change to show that you want to support the needs of the residents. There was only 165,000 change from the previous proposed budget. The actions you have taken as city council members have been disappointing. The graphs that you provided in your agenda mislead the community into thinking that more of the funds have been moved away from the police, but that is not true. Although only 33.5% of the overall total funds go towards police, 49.9% of the funds that you have the power to allocate are still being used for the police. The $15,389 million that the BGPD would receive in the proposed budget is an absurd amount to give to the department that is not wanted by the community. It is important for you to realize that the police system does not keep communities like ours, which is made up of 95.6 Hispanic Latinos, safe. The police system targets Black people, people of color, and queer people in communities nationwide and locally. This is an issue that you should not ignore and show your support by defunding our police department. Do not approve this budget and reconsider where this money should actually go, and that will make an actual difference. My name is Emily Nava, and I have been the Bell Gardens resident for my entire life. I am urging to defund BGPD. 4% is not enough, and insulting those calling for the defunding. After years of living here and volunteering, I have noticed that many departments lack the funding needed to thrive and serve the community at its full capacity. The logical thing to do would be reallocate the millions of dollars the BGPD receives towards community-driven programs and services. High crime levels are a result of the lack of basic needs, hence funding BGPD would actually help our city and will have the tools necessary comfortably. The police department is responsible for the deaths of many Black and Hispanic lives. Showering them with over half our budget and only enables them to murder even more people. The last meeting, the Explorer program was brought up many times. It saddens me that youth have to rely on police programs to build important lifelong characteristics. Let's instead provide STEAM programs, community service project, youth-led events, etc. And to Mayor Cortez, I'm not leading this with my feelings. I'm leaving this with facts that you all refuse to acknowledge. We voted you in and we can vote you out. Do better. Black Lives Matters. The rest is a profanity. Public comments on agenda. Hello, members of the City Council. My name is Julia Aguilar Jerez, and I have been a resident of the Bell Gardens for the past 25 years. I'm writing to you to request a 10% or higher defunding of the Bell Gardens Police Department budget. Defunding the police does not mean to take all money from BGPD. It means to gradually reallocate a part of the budget and invest towards the public services and community-based safety methods. The updated budget with a 4% decrease from BGPD is not enough to create actual change in our community. Bell Gardens deserves more money invested into our youth development programs, affordable housing, recreational activities, and education. Redirected and reinvested public funds will uplift our community while also reducing the crime and increasing safety. The new proposed budget also cut the recreation community services by over $624,000 compared to last year by getting rid of classes, programs, and special events. Now more than ever, we need resources to create quality online programming for our youth and hopefully in-person programming in the future. If anything, we could use this money to make at-home learning and programming accessible. With these resources, we could distribute necessary learning materials and pay instructors for their additional labor and resources needed to make remote programming possible. In addition, I would like to request that future meetings and materials for the City of Bell Gardens use more accessible language and formatting. With poor font choices, illegible scans and graphics, and elitist language, the materials being presented, like the budget or Chief Fairfield's 45-minute presentation, are inaccessible to the public. In last week's meeting, we heard over 40 voices in support of defunding BGPD. The over 20 emails in support of the Explorer program only emphasize the need for more youth development programs. I urge you to listen to our community and create necessary changes for Bell Gardens. Since it was emphasized last Monday that we do not appreciate our council members, let me take time to thank you for your positive changes that you have brought and will continue to bring to our community. We see the work that you do, and we know the potential you have in making our community better. Good morning, my name is Brianna Armendariz, and I'm a citizen of Bell Gardens, and I'm writing today in hopes that City Council could reevaluate the city budget and how much is going to the Bell Gardens Police Department. Like many of the citizens in Bell Gardens, I believe that the money would be going to show the police department could be used more wisely and invested into our community. You see statistics that there's a significant correlation between these resources and the community has and percentage of crime in those communities. When more money is allocated to better the community, the crime rate significantly drops. If less money is invested in communities, then the crime rate increases. Bell Gardens is a small city with a smaller number of residents compared to other cities. BGPD gets 53% of the city's budget. Meanwhile, community development only gets 7% of the annual budget. There's absolutely no need for the city to allocate so much money to BGPD when our city's infrastructure, community programs, and schools need so much funding. A wiser place to put our money would be into fixing up the streets, helping people that are homeless, who, by the way, are constantly being harassed by the same police who are supposed to protect them, funding for our schools, and funding community programs for children and adults in need. If the city wishes to lower BG's crime rate, it would be wise to help people that need it so that they don't turn to committing crimes in order to survive. Our schools are in need of funding as well as community programs for children. Instead of investing in police who go to our schools and harass children constantly and serve no other purpose but to be scare tactics for children who are highly impressionable. If you know where you can reinvest the money, consider asking the citizens that live here. There are many programs that can use resources or even programs that can be developed and to better our future. City Council, I desperately ask you all to please make positive change in Bell Gardens community so that people here can feel safe and taking care of those who are supposed to be leaders in this community. Please do not bypass the pleas coming from the people you are supposed to represent. Hello, I'm writing once again to call for defunding the police department. Last week, we heard from many explorers talking about how defunding would affect their program. I last asked the police department to consider asking the Parks and Recs department how they can run catalog full of youth programs with a fraction of the budget the police department receives. Our community needs help. We need services that will allow an ease of access to mental health services. We need to invest in our parks. We need to invest back into our community. Taking 50% of the general funds is unfair to the people of Bell Gardens. We do not need the police department to teach our kids to do good in our community. We need to create an environment that will help children believe in themselves and their abilities. Taking away 50% of our general fund with little to no consideration of the public means you don't care about the residents. Elections come in cycles. Don't forget that. Hello, members of the City Council. My name is Ruth Aguilar, and I have been a resident of Bell Gardens for 20 years. I'm reaching out to show support in defending the Bell Gardens Police Department. I believe that the funds are currently going to our police department could be allocated to a different area of the budget that directly benefit our community. I'm not alone in this thought. As of 8 a.m. 6/29, there have been a petition in support of the police defunding with 225 signatures from residents of Bell Gardens. I'm sure the number has grown since. Please listen to your residents and City Council members. It is your duty to make decisions that will better our community. Police defunding is one of those decisions. Your efforts to meet our demands have been unrecognized, and although the 165,000 decrease was a start, it is simply not enough. The BGPD still holds 49.9% of the funds that you are allowed to allocate, and it is disappointing. You have the power to remove the funding into areas and programs that could really use it. However, you choose to keep it to fund the police department. The $15 million that the BGPD would receive in the proposed budget is an absurd amount to give to the department that is not wanted by the community. The police system targets BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people of color, in our communities and nationwide and locally. This is an issue that you should not ignore and show your support by defunding our police department. Please, once again, do not approve this budget and rethink where this money should actually go that would actually make a positive difference. I am writing to you today as a 26-year resident of Bell Gardens. All too often, we stood and watched city make decisions autonomous without the input of the residents. To those who are unhappy, remember that there are other options that residents can take if election is too far away. Recall exists for rogue city councils to be met with swift action from the people they are to represent. We watch as the City Council is set to approve the budget for BGPD that is not representative of its constituents. We watched the same members of the City Council dismiss this calling a decrease in BGPD funding. Today, we're done being observers and want to be of action. $15 million budget for BGPD is disproportionate to the 42,000 BG residents. As a charade, you want to declare July as Parks Make Life Better month, and our parks crumble with underfunding. The Ford Park community pool being too expensive to repair, but a blank check is written to BGPD. As transients increase in our city is met with inaction and cozying up to the police department that sounds disinterested in reform. I implore you to rethink the budget to something more representative of the working class residents that make Bell Gardens the city we call home. Good afternoon. As a lifelong resident of Bell Gardens, I'm very disappointed in our City Council's inability to meet the demands of the residents of Bell Gardens. The new proposed budget remains practically unchanged. Meanwhile, the vast majority of the residents and the city demand major reform, particularly in the gradual yet significant defunding of BGPD. I personally find it reasonable to cut the budget by at very least a third, which even then would make it one of the most funded sectors in our city. During the last meeting, I was touched by the comments many of the Bell Gardens explorers made, which is why I believe a portion of our budget should be allocated to their program. But I find it truly despicable that BGPD would threaten to cut their program if they are defunded. These actions speak louder than words and truly shows that BGPD does not have our community in their best interest. Our money should go towards investing in our people, affordable housing, community development, and our schools, which are desperately need more funding. How about we start investing in more preventive measures to reduce crime in our city by investing in the very people that we elected into your office? And to the residents of Bell Gardens, I'm thankful we live in a democracy where we can hold our elected officials accountable. See you in the next city election. Dear council members, thank you for considering a 4% defunding of the police budget. Please have faith that the repurposed money will have a positive impact in our community. You are not in the wrong. I urge you to consider the entire 8% cut brought up in the last meeting. More would be satisfactory as well. Change is slow, and many residents are happy to continue doing this work towards a fair budget the city council moves on after elections. A reminder that our city manager stated last meeting that he has already asked several departments to tighten their belts. It is assumed that some will have to work the shoestring budgets for the next fiscal year. It is fair to allocate too much to the police department where everybody else is doing their part to make sure our city gets through with will be a difficult year financially. From residents' perspective, it doesn't make sense and feels unfair to the people working hard for Bell Gardens. Hello, I'm once again calling for the defunding of BGPD. In the last virtual meeting, many explorers discussed how defunding BGPD would affect them, and I disagree. I would also like to point out that there are activities such as Recess with the Cop, Coffee with the Cop, and No Shave November are completely irrelevant and do not need to be in a police department budget. This community has bigger issues to worry about, such as expanding our recreation and helping build better resources in the community. We need better mental health services, better funding in the community in general. Please understand that BGPD does not need 50% of the city's budget. Our community is in great need, and there are better resources to allocate for their funding. To whom it may concern, I'm a resident of Bell Gardens for almost 16 years now. I find it completely unacceptable that the small city is allocating so much of its budget to a police department, when so many other areas in the city are lacking. Why is our police department receiving so much funds when our city doesn't even have functioning pool for its residents? Why does our city not have programs that nurtures positive development in our citizens, such as the city theater, where residents can take acting and dancing and music courses? There is no pride in the city because our streets are dirty and in need of repair. There's little programs for our citizens to thrive on. We've recently seen a surge in gang and drug-related programs with a police shooting and eventually suicide of a gang-affiliated teenager. The teenager could have been off the streets and at his part-time job as a lifeguard at the city pool if our city provided such activities. It is a proven fact that people do better when they are passionate about an activity. There's no passion about gardens. The city isn't going to improve with most of its budget going to the police departments. Those funds should be used to invest in our community and our residents. My name is Sasha Palos, and I have been a resident of Bell Gardens for 14 years. I'm reaching out because I would like to show my support in defunding the police BGPD. I, like many other residents, believe that the funds could be allocated towards different parts of our community to directly benefit our residents. The City Council meeting on 6/22 had extremely high viewership, and the large number of public comments support this action. I urge you to listen to our community and make our wishes to defund the police a reality. Your current updated proposed budget for the fiscal 2021 does not satisfy what we want. This is not sufficient enough change to show that you support the needs of your residents. There was only $165,000 change from the previous proposed budget. The actions that you have taken as a city council members have been disappointed. The graphs you have provided in your agenda mislead the community into thinking that more of the funds have been moved away for the police, but this is not true. Although only 33.5% of the overall total funds goes towards police department, 49.9% of the funds that you have the power to allocate are still being used for the police. The $15 million that the BGPD would receive in the proposed budget is an absurd amount to give to a department that is not wanted by the community. It is important for you to realize that the police system does not keep communities like ours, which is made up of 95.6 Hispanic Latino, safe. The police system targets Black people, people of color, the queer people, and communities nationwide and locally. This is an issue that you should not ignore and show your support of by defunding your police departments. Please do not approve this budget and rethink where there is money should actually go and will make a positive difference. Good morning, City Council. What exactly did you all review during this time? You're proposing to pass the exact budget that was presented last meeting. It is not enough. The city is in shambles at the mercy of the casino for revenue, with community members in need, and yet the police department is still your #1 priority. I'm asking you once again to reconsider how these funds are going, where our collective money is going, and understand that we are prioritizing programs and services for the community's well-being. I'm asking for a continuous review of these budgets and fair cuts that can be reallocated to the community. I will point out again the fact that we have almost $1 million in PD overtime, almost $300,000 in PD vacation buyout, and more. I will point out again that the highest number of reported cases in the PD is 10,830 parking violations, not violent crime. You cannot tell me these numbers were looked at and nothing was being done to address these gaps. You cannot tell me the city does not have funding for other projects if this is a majority of our resources are going to. It is very performative to wear the Black Lives Matter banner at events with fists in the air for the photo op, but do nothing when it comes to honoring the movement and what it means to divest from these systems and invest in the community. Also, Dr. Melina Abdul, co-founder of BLM LA, posed a question to the LA City Council. I will pose to you, and I quote, "You have the opportunity now to not just say, who am I as a city council member, but whose are you? Do you belong to the Police Protective League? Do you belong to your ambitions? Do you belong to your ego? Or do you belong to the people?" Greetings, elected officials, and to all engaged citizens who are watching. My name is Luis Izarraras, and I'm the president of the Bell Gardens Police Officers Association. I represent the majority of the personnel that work within the police department, and I'm writing you to express my association's concerns, as well as a reaffirmation to provide the city of Bell Gardens with the highest quality of service. First, my association would like to reiterate that the actions of the former officer in Minneapolis does not represent our members or the law enforcement community. Our association was one of the first to publicly express our shock and disbelief of what occurred. Prior to that incident, we were praised in our dedication and heroism for lacing up our boots and coming into work every day during the COVID-19 pandemic. We do not have the liberty to police from our desk or at home or shield ourselves from the virus, but that's okay. We all voluntarily signed up and took oath to do our job and protect the citizens of Bell Gardens without reservation. Our members are some of the best trained and proficient professionals in our industry. We are constantly involved within the community, supporting local and regional organizations. Most recently, a local church was vandalized, causing hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in damages. 2 days later, we made a charitable contribution to help repair the damage that had been done. We did so because we care and not for publicity. Defunding of police agencies is being thrown around lately by many, and there has been some inaccurate information that has been published with little or no factual information to support it. The most recent chart exhibiting that the police accounts for 50% of the city's budget is inaccurate when it only accounts for 33%. The false information has not helped with the morale within our organization and has created a public distrust and disdain towards us when our service has been consistent. Almost every public encounter or traffic stop is met with confrontation or a negative attitude as a result of this inaccurate information. I do believe there can be reform at how the city's overall expenditures can be redistributed to benefit the community. After reviewing the city's expenditure summary report, there are plenty of expenses that can be reallocated and even some that are excessive, for example, auto and cell phone allowances. I'm extended an invitation to you all to meet the members of the POA to go over factual and comparable cities that we can collectively provide. Dear mayors and members of the council, my name is Successor and I am disappointed that you would hinder the community participation by hosting this special meeting at the last minute and at a time when we are working. I am once again asking you to consider defunding the police department and ask you to take the step to look into other alternatives that help communities feel safer. Our community needs a divestment plan and proposal for needs assessment of our city. We need you to defund the police department and put our community first. To the Bell Gardens City Council, I'm writing today to ask you to defund the BGPD. I ask for these funds to be reallocated to sectors that actually benefit members of our community. More specifically, I ask that they be reallocated towards the Department of Recreations and Community Services, which currently plan to receive only 8.5% of the city's funds, and towards community development, which is planned to receive only 4.6% of the city's funds. There is no logical reason for BGPD to receive 60 mil in funds. If we really want our community to thrive, we must reallocate these funds. Hello, members of the City Council. My name is Sandra Rocha, and I have been a resident of the City of Bell Gardens for over 20 years. I'm reaching out because I would like to show my support in the reallocation of the Bell Gardens budget funds. Like many other residents, I believe that the funds could be allocated towards different parts of our community to benefit the residents directly. The City Council meeting on 6/22 had an extremely high viewership and large number of public comments. In support of this action, I urge you to listen to your community and make our wishes and disburse funds to other departments. Your current updated proposed budget from the fiscal year 2021 does not satisfy what the community needs. There's only an $165,000 change from the previous proposed budget. The actions that you have taken as City Council members are disappointing. The graphs you provide on your agenda misled the community into thinking that funds were reallocated from the police department, but this is not true. The inaccurate reflection of 33.5% of the overall total funds goes towards the policy covers. The reality is that 49.9% of the BGPD would receive 49% of the funds that you have the power to allocate are for the police. The budget amount of 15 million of the BGPD would receive is an outrageous amount to give to the department that is not supported by the community. It is crucial for you to realize that the police system does not keep community like ours with a makeup of 95.6 Hispanic Latino safe. The police system targets Black people, people of color, and queer people in communities nationwide and locally. The issue should not be ignored, and the community expects you all to show support for the allocation of the budget funds. Please do not approve this budget and consider where the money should be distributed to a truly positive difference in the community.
I do have the one last one.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'll go ahead and call Mr. Jose Castellanos.
Hello?
Hello, is this Jose Castellanos?
Yes, he's speaking.
Okay. My name is Jane Halstead, Secretary to the City Clerk for the City of Bell Gardens. I'm calling you so you can state your comments before the City Council by phone. Please announce your name and say your comments. You have 2 minutes to speak, and this is regarding the special City Council meeting regarding the budget, okay?
That's correct.
So go ahead and get started.
Sure. Hello, good afternoon. Yes, good afternoon, everybody. This is Jose Castellanos, and I am resident of the City of Bell Gardens, and I'm on behalf of the whole neighborhood safety watch. We are about 150 members of the team, and my comment is that we do not agree with the cost for the police department. We cannot cut for something that is already working. If we cut, then we're going to put a neighborhood in risk because we're going to have less police officers on the streets. So I will invite you, to say no to these cuts. We should make a deeply analysis of this decision before it's made. Therefore, I will suggest that we don't make these cuts for the police department. So my name is Jose Castellanos. Again, I live in 7001 Granger Avenue, Bell Gardens, California. And if you have any questions, you can give me a call at 213-706-6191. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. You have a good day.
Okay.
That concludes public comments.
Thank you, City Clerk. With that, we'll go ahead and close public participation. Now, moving on, City Manager, will you please announce discussion item number 1?
Thank you, Mayor Cortez. So the purpose of this special meeting is to present a budget to the City Council for fiscal year 2021. This presentation and the budget that's included, it has been revised from the presentation that you saw at the last week's council meeting. So just in summary, before our Administrative Services Director goes through the presentation, there's an additional $400,000 in resources that's been reallocated to the CDBG COVID-19 Community Assistance Programs, bringing that number up to over $1 million. This was for rental assistance, commercial rental assistance, child care assistance, and utility bill assistance. Those programs would be implemented here in the next 30, 40 days or so. It includes a police department efficiency review study that'll be conducted out of the city manager's office, not out of the police department. It also includes, to fund some of those things, it includes additional reductions to the police department, overtime, training, supplies, et cetera. And just for statement of facts, just with some of the information that's out there. So it's a 5% reduction from last year's budget, 4% reduction from the original proposed budget. With that, I'll turn it over to our Administrative Services Director, Will Koholokula, to run through this presentation.
All right. Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Let me go ahead and get my screen shared here. Okay. Okay, good afternoon, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. As you know, for the third time at a public meeting, we'll be presenting the fiscal year 2020-2021 city budget. So to begin with a overview of the overall budget for fiscal year 2021, the total city budget for Bell Gardens is $48,630,000. As the council is aware, the COVID-19 has wreaked havoc on our city finances as well as certain programming. Despite the challenges of COVID-19, there's been new community programming that has been added which we'll talk about in future slides. The big impact has been to our casino revenue, where at one time it's provided over 40% of our city's general fund. This year, due to COVID-19, it's down $6 million. And as the city manager mentioned, the police department budget has been reduced by 4% from the original proposed budget, 5% from the prior year adopted budget. And then our general fund, which is our main operating fund, our local resources, the funds we have control over, is projected to have a multi-million-dollar deficit. And then our water fund continues to run deficits. So we'll begin by talking about all the funds for the city. And in relation to that, for the current year and planned for the next year, there are new community programs that will be offered to the residents of Bell Gardens. The four mentioned here are the COVID assistance programs. It includes business assistant grants for those non-essential businesses, assistance for residential rental assistance, grants for utility assistance. And the original funding, based on the last presentation we did, had basically CDBG money and CARES money, which was just over $600,000. Since the last budget that was presented on June 22nd, $400,000 from the general fund has been added to provide more funding for these programs. So the total for these four programs is $1,023,000. On this slide are more of the new community benefit programs that were presented at the prior council meeting. And then on this slide too are some more of the new community benefit programs that are going on and planned for the next fiscal year. One of the programs that I wanted to highlight was the Grab and Go Supper Meal Program that our Recreation and Community Services Department is administering. Not only is this an additional service that is being provided to the community, but the State Department of Education, which is the department that is funding this program, is actually paying the city to administer this program $1 per meal, and it's actually provided an additional $225,000 to the city's general fund, as there's planned 225,000 meals for use 1 through 18 in the next fiscal year. And then financially, looking at all the city funds. So this is all the money that the city is planning to spend in this next fiscal year. So the total amount.
Will, it's Mike. This is the city manager. Just before Will goes, there's been a lot of questions about the information that's about to be presented here. So I just want to say, just to be clear, the budget that the city is adopting is a total budget. It's a $48.6 million budget. The general fund is the majority of the budget. That is the majority where the discretionary funds are located. But it's still important for us to talk this. So I just want to be clear that we aren't trying to, in some way, discount the fact that most of the discretionary money is contained in the general fund, and we will talk about that. But it doesn't mean that we should not still talk about the total budget that's being adopted by the city council. So again, this is to be very high level informative and in no way to sort of hide or brush aside the discussion regarding the general fund. Thanks, Will.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, so all city funds, this is funding from all levels of government. Our local resources, which are discretionary, there's state funding included in this proposed in all city funds budget, as well as federal. So total amount, $48,630,000. You can see the percentages on the side. On this next slide, we have a pie chart that depicts the proportion of the services that are provided to the community. And, this is funding sources from local, county, state, and federal. Public safety, you can see, is 33% overall. The majority of that funding is local resources. There aren't a lot of county, state, or federal money that are going to pay for local public safety. On the public works side, it's 28%. And now the majority of this money is county and state. The state gas taxes help fund our street infrastructure, as well as county sales tax measures that have been passed by the voters. Also helps fund our infrastructure of our streets. A smaller portion, definitely probably about a quarter of the total public works is from the general fund. Some of the other key services up top, you have the community development, which in its current state is mostly city planning, building, along with code enforcement. Also, the COVID-19 assistance programs will be ran out of the community development department. And in the green on the left side of the chart, I wanted to point out the Successor agency. So this is basically the former redevelopment agency. It was dissolved in 2012, but it was a program that basically provided for the city of Bell Gardens about $4 million per year for low, moderate income housing, as well as city development. During the last Great Recession, the program was dissolved by the state. And so currently we're just paying off basically the debts that are left over from the Successor agency. And then the other major service provided by the city is recreation and community services. Total amount is 4.1 million, or 8% of all city funds. This is what the local government, the city, will provide to our residents. But there are multiple layers of government that do provide recreation and community services. Mentioned some at the last presentation. Another one is school districts. School districts are funded by the state. They're going to provide that education service to the city residents. Also, a new service that the residents of Bell Gardens are directly funding is related to the homelessness initiative. In 2007, Measure H was passed, which was a 0.25% sales tax imposed on all residents of Los Angeles County. 0.25% for Bell Gardens is about $750,000. That gets contributed to the Measure H initiative, and they receive about $355 million a year to implement their homeless initiative. So that's all city funds. And then we move into our local discretionary money, the locally controlled money, the general fund. And so this is the main operating fund of the city. As just a high level overview of what's going on with the general fund during this fiscal year. The big thing that we're dealing with right now is COVID-19. It's created not only a financial crisis, but it's really limited our programming that we're able to provide to city residents. As the year progresses, I think even just over the weekend, COVID-19 has the regulations that the state has placed down have changed a little bit, been even more a little restrictive. So the COVID-19 will be constantly evaluated to see if programming can be re-implemented. And then just wanted to highlight in white that out of the general fund, an additional $400,000 has been added for the COVID-19 assistant programs that we discussed on a slides a few slides back. Overall deficit is currently at about 2.7 million. When the original proposed budget was put together, we were looking at a deficit of closer to $7 million. And we took steps to identify additional revenues and reduce expenditures, which we'll highlight on a slide moving forward, of what we did to get the deficit down to 2.7 million amongst amongst the financial crisis that we're going through currently. So overall general fund budget, $28 million in revenues, almost $31 million in expenditures, $2.7 million deficit. And then, as I mentioned earlier, when the budget was first put together, we were looking at a deficit of nearly $7 million. the casino revenues are still down by $6 million. So here are the steps that were taken to reduce that deficit to its current $2.7 million. Just a couple to highlight is under reducing expenditures, temporarily defunded 5 positions. That reduced it by $780,000. 3 positions in the police department, one position in the city manager's office, and 1 position in recreation and community services. And then, so taking a detailed look at the general fund revenue. So these are the revenues that we generate locally here. And this is the same slide as previously, but just want to highlight a couple items. You can see the impacts of COVID-19. At the top is Bicycle Casino, lower by $5,932,000. Also related to COVID-19 is the reduction in sales tax. And then moving on down to the $270,000 reduction, that's the hotel visitor tax. At the bottom in other revenue, there was additional revenue that we added for this presentation related to a police department grant for police department salaries that added just over $200,000 to our revenue sources. So total decrease in revenue from the previous budget, $3,636,000. And then the casino revenues are main source of funding for our general fund. It's been very volatile over the years, and you can just see its volatility from 2009 through 2021. And then you can see on the far right side of just the dramatic decrease for where it was just back in 2019 to where we're projecting it for this next fiscal year, 2021. And then here's kind of a detail of our projection for this next fiscal year. Overall, the casino revenue is lower by $6 million. And then on the right side of the graph, this is our projection into the future, beginning with June 2020. In July, we start the next fiscal year. We'll be at a 30% level. And then we're projecting by June 2021 that we'll get back up to an 85% level, which is the hope. And then general fund expenditures. So we'll take a look at general fund expenditures by department. And then so here is a table of our general fund expenditures for each city department. And a couple of them were discussed during public comment. So the changes from the last presentation on June 22nd, what was made. So police department is lower by $165,000 from the previous presentation. Overall, from the prior year budget, it's lower by almost $800,000. And the 165, as the city manager mentioned, was a reduction in overtime, training, and supplies and services. City manager budget funds have been added for a police efficiency review. Under vacancy savings, there's been the vacancy savings rate has been increased from 2% to 3.5%, basically due to expected vacancies in the police department due to retirements, and then also additional retirements in other departments as well. And then community development budget has been increased by $400,000. This is the addition of the general fund to the COVID-19 assistance programs, and that's pretty much why the community development department is higher by $489,000. So total expenditures overall for this fiscal year is almost lower by $900,000. And then we added this slide for this presentation, basically just a pie chart of the general fund expenditures by department. So the police department is about 49.9%, where the funding for the police department is going to come from the general fund, and really no other county, state, or federal money is going to pay for public safety. Then we have an analysis of just each department, just kind of some highlights.
Can you do me a favor and go back to the previous graph, please?
Sure, no problem, council member.
Do you mind telling me what the difference is between this pie graph and the previous one that you had?
Yes, absolutely. So this pie graph is the funding that is going to come from only the general fund. So this is just purely the general fund. What is the general fund going to pay for?
Let me ask you another question. Sorry to interrupt. So does that mean that the council has the ability to vote on how these funds are spent?
These are discretionary, non-restrictive funds. Yep, they're locally controlled funds.
So we can actually vote on how this money is spent, right? Whereas the other pie graph, are we able to vote on how that money is spent?
On the other pie graph, that's county, federal, and state. So those funds are restricted. So you really don't have a say-so in how those monies are going to be spent. They're provided for a specific purpose.
So for the purpose of the budget being approved by the council and the council specifying how these budgets need to be allocated, this will be a more useful graph, correct?
As far as the council and their discretion on how the money is spent, the general fund will be where the council will have discretion on how the money is spent. So yes.
Thank you, Will. And the reason why I'm asking this is because we've been familiarized with a number which was 53% for last fiscal year to going to the police department. That number, our community knows it. We know that from the comments that came in earlier today. So we know the number is 53% of our general fund expenditures, right? And what I want to make a point about is that we don't want to be misleading our community, making them think that our police allocation is 33% of our general fund. So it's very clear from this particular pie graph that the police department budget that is being proposed is 49.9%. And I just wanted to make a point of that because the previous chart, which shows the police department being 33.3%, I have been working here in the city for over 10 years. I have never seen that pie graph pop up until the last meeting on Monday. So I don't know why it was decided to insert it. I'm happy to see that we're providing more information from the perspective of the full budget. But I am a little bit cautious to not mislead our residents and confuse them, as it is already hard for them to keep up with all this data that we're throwing at them. So thank you for clarifying that, Will. And again, this is the general fund. This is the only funding that we have control over as a council. The rest of the funding includes huge projects such as the water cistern project that's being done right now at Fort Park that is funded by the county, and we have no control how those funds are spent. Those funds are spent according to the law. This particular graph here with the 49.9% of police department shows the funds that we as a council have the ability to decide how we allocate. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the general fund analysis of each department that's being funded by the general fund. So already the police department has, in this fiscal year, temporarily unfunded 3 positions. They have secured grants to pay for police salaries of $206,000. And there were other expenditure cuts, including overtime, training, and supplies and service cuts as well. Recreation and community development, COVID-19 has made it difficult to operate a recreation and community services program. So there is less programming in this next fiscal year that has provided lower expenditures. The being able to reprogram will be constantly be evaluated as COVID-19 changes. However, for this next fiscal year, there's been budgeted $100,000 professional services for recreation facility evaluations, as well as an additional $250,000 to make improvements to recreation facilities. COVID-19, we added community development. We added the $400,000 for the COVID-19 assistance programs. Pretty much the big change was $160,000 of grant expenditures for housing element work. City clerk, in this next fiscal year, there'll be a city election, so there'll be more costs related to the city election. And then in the city manager's department, there are funds budgeted for a police efficiency review study. And then vacancy savings rate, we already discussed that, and the other two are the same as the prior presentation. And then moving on to the capital improvements. So total planned capital improvements is over $11 million of expenditures that still need to be incurred. This is kind of related to the all city funds. You can see the funding source that we have various measures, various grants. So this is the funding that we were talking about, really going to public works. The county measures, measure R, measure M, and then we have state taxes, gas tax, and there are also some federal money in there, some federal grants as well. So this is the and the majorities are related to streets. This is repaving the streets. And then we get to the summary and conclusion. So total citywide budget, $48,580,000. There have been new community programs added for this next fiscal year. Some community program is not feasible at this time due to social distancing. And then the city staff will continually reevaluate changes to COVID-19 and in our ability to bring back programming. And then COVID-19 has created the financial difficulties on our city revenues, the big loss being in the casino revenue of nearly $6 million. Overall revenues were lower by $3.6 million. And then general fund expenditure deficit of $2.7 million. Some of the actions that were taken to get this deficit down, 5 less funded positions. We did add $400,000 to the COVID-19 assistance programs. $350,000 was added for recreation facility improvements and evaluations. There is a planned police department efficiency review. And community benefit programs will continually be sought. And then so we talked about earlier just of the fiscal challenges. Obviously, the one is the general fund deficit of $2.7 million. Solutions to that fiscal challenge. One of them is a 0.75% sales tax measure that's on the November ballot. If that sales tax measure would be approved, those monies would go into the general fund, and the city council will have discretion on how those monies are spent. If some other agency comes in, like the county did with Measure H, those funds will go towards some regional project that we will entirely lose control over. That 0.75% that's currently available to us will no longer be available. Currently, there's a water rate study going on to help get our water system solvent. And then as we presented at the June 8th council meeting, where we've looked at user fees, which haven't been increased for a few years. And some of the fees that were proposed to increase would be on the business environment related to community development fees, plan check fees, and those types of fees. Some of the things that are also going on that the council is aware of, we're in labor negotiations. We do have reserves, but the negotiations will hope to bring on agreements that will reduce the impact to city reserves. And then as we move forward, just constantly monitoring this COVID-19 environment, it seems to be changing weekly, monitor the social distancing requirements mandated by public health, evaluate the ability to bring back community programming. We'll be closely monitoring the casino revenue projections. I think the casino's been open for 1 week now. And so far, it looks like the projections are kind of in line. But as you know, that the projections are at the low end in the beginning. So we'll see how that progresses. The police department efficiency review will occur during the fiscal year. Those results will be disclosed. And at the minimum, we'll be coming back to the city council to provide a mid-year budget update early 2021 to make additional changes to the budget, potentially kind of see where we are financially. We're going in with a $2.7 million deficit to see if any of the solutions that we plan have actually taken place, which will help reduce that deficit or not. And then we can, at the latest, we'll have that discussion during the mid-year budget review. And then so our current approved budget ends on June 30th, which is tomorrow. So in order for the city to continue to operate, we are looking for a recommendation that the budget be approved along with the GAN limit, the GAN appropriation limit. So that concludes my presentation. I can take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Will. At this point, I'd open it up for the rest of the city council if there's any questions, comments, or concerns.
I just want to address some of the comments that our residents made in regards to the budget. First of all, I appreciate everyone's participation here. I am a little bit concerned in regards to the perception that we are putting out there, and I'm not sure how this is happening, but it seems like our community is under the impression that we want to remove the police budget, and that is not what we're trying to do, or at least what I'm trying to do here. We heard things such as quieren traer al sheriff, like we're trying to bring the sheriff in here. That is not what I'm trying to do. I haven't heard of any other council member trying to do that. So I'm concerned about the community being misled. I don't know how this information is getting out there. And it seems like these community members are very scared. So I'm concerned for them. And I'm worried that they're being told things that are misrepresenting the interests of the council, or at least my interests. What we're looking at here is reallocating some of the funds towards the community without having a huge impact in our policing. That is what I am trying to do as a council member. And I am by no means trying to get rid of the police or bring in the sheriffs or any of that. So I'm worried that there's some fear mongering going on. I don't know where it's coming from, but I don't appreciate whoever is spreading this information. And please know that we do appreciate our police department and that they do serve a very important role here in the city of Bell Gardens. And in my opinion, they've been doing a great job. So I just wanted to point that out. And that is my comment for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Barcena. Any other comments, questions from the council?
Yeah, I wanted to add, this is Mayor Pro Tem Flores. To second what Marco said, it does appear that someone has been frightening our community and giving them false information as far as what defunding the police even means. Y para las señoras y señoritas que están hoy mirándonos, ya sea por Facebook o por su celular, como sea, quiero explicarles qué es lo que significa defunding the police department. Quiere decir que en vez de gastar millones de dólares dándoselos a la policía, uno de esos fondos puede ser divididos en invertir en nuestra juventud. Yo, para mí, la policía ya es cuando los jóvenes llegaron a la policía, es que ya es muy tarde, es cuando tenemos que invertir en ellos cuando están jóvenes, agarrar dinero, encontrar dinero y recursos para invertir en ellos. So, quiero que ustedes sepan que no estamos tratando de deshacernos del jefe de policía ni de los policías. Eso no es el mensaje que estamos mandando y hasta ahorita de mi parte, puedo decirles que yo no tengo ninguna intención de traer a los sheriffs. Yo conozco muy bien todos quienes son mis oficiales y yo estoy muy comfortable con quienes trabajan aquí en la ciudad. Aún así, no quiere decir que estoy de acuerdo de que la misma cantidad de fondos sigan yendo a un departamento que tiene la oportunidad de compartir sus fondos y darle a lo que sea, como ahora va a venir un comité que se llama el Comité de Juventud, que si sea aprobada por este concilio serían 2 jóvenes por council member, que serían 10 jóvenes, todos cuales tuvieron la oportunidad de tener una beca. Y ese dinero puede venir de esos recursos de los que estamos pidiendo. No que necesariamente quiere decir que vamos a deshacernos de nuestros policías. So what I just did is just explain to those that are listening what defunding the police actually means. And I just want to say regarding this budget that I am not comfortable with this budget because I did ask for this to be restructured, and it's restructured in a manner that's quite deceiving for me. And I don't feel comfortable with it because I do feel that there's another position that could have easily been eliminated, which is the salaried paid position in the police department. The neighborhood watch director gets, I think, well, was it 80? What was it? 87? I can't hear you.
The total impact on the budget is $110,000.
$110,000. Is that including workers' compensation for that salary?
No, it does not include workers' comp because workers' comp is fixed, so we're going to pay it regardless if we have that position or not.
Okay, awesome. So it's $110,000. It's a paid position. The director of the Neighborhood Watch Program, el director de la Neighborhood Watch Program, le pagan $110,000 al año por una posición que las 27 ciudades a nuestros alrededores lo tienen de gratis. Estas posiciones ya tienen muchísimos años que la gente son voluntarias en estas posiciones. So, algo de que yo recomendé es que elimináramos estos $110,000 del departamento de policía y alocarlo al parque, donde es donde nosotros podemos ayudar más a nuestros niños, y también para las becas que estoy buscando dar vía the Youth Commission. So, para mí eso es una injusticia de que no estamos haciendo eso. No necesito que un survey me diga algo que ya sé, que no necesitamos esa posición que sea pagada. Creo que el programa debería de seguir, así como ha sido por años, con voluntarias y sin que nos cueste a nuestro departamento $110,000 de los dineros de nuestros taxpayers. So that's how I feel about this, and I do feel that the restructuring needs to be done a little clearer. Also, Will, just to clarify to those who may be watching, you mentioned the labor negotiations, right? You said that that's going to make an impact into our reserve. So what you're saying is that we're going to have less in our reserves once the labor negotiations go through, correct?
I guess the idea with labor negotiations is that because of the deficit, that there will be some employee concessions, so our cost for employees will be lower, therefore our expenditures will be lower, and then that will reduce our deficit.
Okay. So what I wanted to clarify, because in the last council meeting, I said that we should go behind closed doors. What I meant is that we should go into closed session so that we can review the decision we made regarding the labor negotiations. Our neighboring cities are taking cuts for other employees. People are being furloughed. And if you just look at a city like Commerce, who's very similar to ours, their budget, they're being much more conservative with the way that they're going to negotiate with these labor groups. And I think that it's not just about what we say here in public, but what we do behind closed doors as well. And as being the only person who voted no against that, I think that maybe we should maybe approve this budget or wait the 30 days. Technically, we can wait until July 30th, right, Mike?
Mayor Pro Tem, I'm not sure if there's even a limit on continuing resolutions. I'd defer to the city attorney for that.
Okay, so just recanting my statement regarding labor negotiations, can we wait until July 30th to approve a budget?
So you could approve a spending resolution if we were to bring one, let's say tomorrow before the fiscal year end, but we're not allowed to obligate the city to spend any money after tomorrow under our current budget. So what we would bring, I think what you're proposing is like a continuing spending resolution that says the city is not adopting a budget for fiscal year 2021, but to keep either the whole city or essential city services running, the council would authorize expenditure authority for a 30-day period.
Okay.
So you could do that.
So I guess, Mike, the answer to that question was the budget needs to be approved, or it doesn't need to be approved, but the deadline is as of July 1st, not July 31st, correct?
Yes, the city's current expenditure authority ends tomorrow.
So what I'm trying to say here, guys, is that I'm not comfortable approving this budget without the proper reallocating of funds, which my proposal would be to defund the police department by that salaried position and reallocate it towards the youth commission and the parks and recreation department. And also going back into closed session and review our labor negotiations, medium.
Any other questions or comments by the council?
I would like to ask the city manager what he thinks about Councilmember Flores's suggestion.
Sure. I would first I would just address without discussing any specific cities. It is very difficult to come up with comparable cities here. Some are larger than us, some are smaller, some have casinos, some don't have casinos, some have the sheriff, some have police department, some have fire, some have county fire. So generally, regarding the labor negotiation side of it, we can always go back into closed session. What we brought before the council was based on the specific circumstances of the city of Bell Gardens. So of course that could always be relooked at. As far as from a budget perspective, I think the caution that I would put forth to the council is, you've got a budget before you. It's been discussed previously, 2 occasions at council. This will be the third occasion. You could certainly adopt, of course, I'm going to be for adopting a budget. You adopt the budget, and then if you want to revise the budget, you could revise it every council meeting throughout the whole fiscal year. I think the message that you're putting out there, let's say to potential grant funding agencies, is that there's a financial issue that may or may not be greater than what a potential funding agency may agree with. So we're currently on the cusp. We've applied for a $6.5 million grant to build a $13 million pool. It's a competitive grant. The agency that's funding it is concerned with the financial wherewithal of the cities such as Bell Gardens that have applied for those grants because they know COVID has changed things. It's very clear to see with our financial documents that we've taken a hit with the casino. So I don't think it's a positive from the perspective of trying to achieve specifically that grant. It doesn't mean you can't do it, and it doesn't mean that you won't receive the grant. But it would not be something that would be seen as positive. Also, if there are any other funding opportunities out there, it would be clear just to those agencies that we were not able to pass or adopt a budget, prior to June 30th. But with that being said, you've seen probably federal government shutdowns before where the federal government's had an inability to pass or adopt a budget, or you've seen where the state has had an inability to adopt a budget. And I think you can judge whether that's a positive or negative thing for those entities just in your own mind. So my recommendation would be what the staff recommendation is here before you, and that would be to adopt the budget. Certainly, we've got a study that's budgeted to do an efficiency study of the police department, which would include the neighborhood watch. But also, as stated, there is a way to not adopt the budget, and if we were to meet or again tomorrow, or if the council were to adopt some kind of I guess we'd have to meet tomorrow, we'd need a spending resolution to at least keep the doors open for the next 30 days.
I want to also voice my concern about the specifics of the $400,000. I know that we already decided that it's going to be a COVID related effort. However, I know that the CDBG funds that initiated the COVID fund have restrictions in regards to how we are to disperse those funds to the residents. I know that it cannot be a need-based process, that it's more of a lottery-based process. And I would like to know if there's a way that we can spend our funds from the general fund in a way that addresses from a more need-based perspective, so that we can make sure that we're targeting those residents that are at risk of homelessness and are actually in the most drastic need of help. So what I would like to do is maybe I would like to make a motion to approve the budget as it is, but bringing this back to the next council meeting, or even a special meeting, or maybe set up a committee in order to iron out those details in regards to those $400,000, and also to further discuss the $110,000 that is being discussed in regards to that position that is being funded in PD. I just feel like that needs to be looked at a little bit closer. And last but not least, I feel that before we spend the $50,000 on a study, that maybe our staff can do some work on getting some solid numbers, because I've heard a lot of criticism in regards to some of the budget numbers that have been thrown back and forth, and whether people need to be looking at 33% or at 50%. So I think that as a city, we need to do a better job at standardizing how we look at the surrounding city budgets in order to know where we stand regionally. So that will be my motion to maybe bring those items back to the next meeting, but while approving the budget here today, because obviously we need to get that budget approved if we want to ensure that we are still in line for other funding opportunities that we've applied for as a city.
Before
you,
we move
council
forward
members.
with the motions, real quick, this is Mayor Pro Tem Flores. I just want to relay what my motion would be. My motion would be to approve the budget with the defunding of the $110,000 from the Neighborhood Watch program, because the study's going to tell us that. How is it that 27 cities have it as a volunteer and we're paying for it? We have a huge rate of teen pregnancy. We have a lot of abandoned youth who don't have a lot to do here in the city. And when we provide this youth commission and we have this money for them, it's an incentive for them to get involved, get cultured, and know what's going on in their public policy. Right now, everybody's home, and this is the first time they're being politically involved. When we incite them and put a stipend on the back of that so that they can buy themselves laptops or something necessary to educate themselves, that's an investment in our youth. And to approve this budget with that there is an insult, because we know that we don't need this position. The study's going to tell us exactly that. So we're going to pay $50,000 to tell us something what we already know, that this doesn't have to be there. So we can approve this and make the community happy and protect our officers at the same time. This is not a paid this is not an officer's salary. This is a volunteer who's been paid $110,000 for 14, 15 years, while everybody else has had it as a volunteer position. I think that it's ridiculous to pass that forward, and I'm sorry, I'm very passionate about this, because it's upsetting for me when my youth ask me for different things, and we have, this outlet here that we can use to help them.
Madam Mayor, if I may, I'd like to reply.
Please go ahead.
I just want to say, Councilmember Flores, that I understand your concern. And I also think that it's important to continue to discuss the allocation of those $110,000. However, just so you understand my point of view, I am not requesting the study just for these $110,000. I'm requesting the study in order to make sure that millions of dollars are being spent correctly. So just want to clarify that, and I'm hoping that you can support that study, because that goes beyond $110,000. It could potentially result in a much larger sum of funds
Saving of money. Yeah, I completely
that can go to the
understand. I
community.
just wanted to add that if we were to save those $110,000, that would even help pay for those $50,000 of an audit where we can potentially save millions. So this is the start of the savings.
Okay, at this point, I'd like to second Councilmember Barcena's motion to approve the budget resolution number 2052, adopting the fiscal year July 1st, 2020 to June 30, 2021, operating and capital improvement budgets and compensation plan, and resolution number 2020-53, establishing the GAN appropriations limit for fiscal year 2020-21 pursuant to Article 8B, the California State Constitution. So we'll take that motion first.
I don't think that we heard from Councilmember Aceituno.
It doesn't matter, Mayor Pro Tem. I opened up the floor and the council members have the
It's
option
just
to
as the
unmute
most
themselves.
experienced council member, I thought maybe out of the 21 years he'd have something to say about
So,
that.
okay, so there's a motion and a second on the floor. We'll take it to a roll call. Councilmember Barcena.
Madam Mayor, I just want to make sure that we are speaking about the same motion. I definitely want to provide my motion to approve the budget, but only if we continue to, at the next council meeting, discuss the $110,000, and also continue to discuss how we are going to allocate the $400,000 that we have managed to give back to the community. So I want those details to be included in the motion so that we can make sure that the discussion will continue.
Okay, Councilmember Barcena, I will go ahead and amend that motion. City Clerk, do you have that on record? Yes. Okay, so amending the motion and supporting that motion once again. So we have a first and the second with the amended corrections by Councilmember Barcena. So having that second motion, now I'll take it to a roll call. Councilmember Barcena.
Yes, thank you.
Councilmember Aceituno.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem.
In light of teamwork, I will vote yes.
And yes for myself as well. So at this point, our budget carries and the motion carries. Thank you. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to council member comments. Councilmember Aceituno.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to take this opportunity to thank our staff for working diligently with us to have numerous meetings on discussing on how we can make some adjustments to bring a budget forward. So I want to thank all our staff that has been working hard. Thank you.
Councilmember Barcena.
Likewise, I want to thank staff for their patience. This has been a rocky road getting here, but the city manager, the finance director, and the police chief have all been working as hard as they can to make sure that we provide the community the services that they need, and that we do it in the proper manner. So I want to thank staff, and I want to thank the council for being able to work together and communicating efficiently with each other. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I'd like to thank all the callers and all the people that sent emails. I think that in the future, if we were to host a special meeting, it shouldn't be at 11 a.m. People, it's a citywide fact known that council meetings on Monday at 6 p.m. You know, whether this was not the regular council meeting, they still expect our council meeting to be at 6 p.m. So moving forward, I think that we should consider the resident involvement and make sure that the meetings are in a more feasible time. And I also think that we should find a way to let our callers call in live, because as the meeting is progressing, I know that people also want to, tune in if they find the time to do it or they didn't find out that the meeting was going to happen at this time. And I think that given the COVID situation, we should really, reevaluate the way that we're allowing the residents to participate. And I just want to say for the record, for a woman who called earlier about $400,000 that I potentially or allegedly spent, that is in fact not true. And I will be putting out a statement addressing whatever it is that you guys are interested in knowing that is factual versus having to listen to, people who obviously have a campaign against me for whatever reason or not. But know that at the end of the day, whether you support me or not, I'm going to do the right thing because I am a mother. I'm the only mother on this council, and I care about my committee, and I care about my city, and I care about everything because I live here, I work here. I'll go to Food for Less, I go to Starbucks. You can find, if you wait long enough outside Starbucks, I'll be there because I'm here. So I want you guys to know that I genuinely care about the city. And I want to thank staff for putting this together. I know, Mike, this must have been exciting for you to push this deadline. And for everybody else, but I hope that we can continue to have this conversation because although I approve this, I'm not okay with the budget continuing the same status quo. So thank you.
Okay, with that being said, I would like to conclude this meeting at 1:14 p.m. Thank you all.